With a body like steel and a heart made of gold, it's said that among every member of Jerema 66, he's the only one to have true compassion. A villain from legend born to reject that fabled legacy, with only Joy Boy himself being able to rival his sheer commitment toward his goals. This is Vinsmoke Sanji, the chef of the Straw Hat Pirate crew and the man destined to find the All Blue. As both a wing of the Pirate King and a rival to the soon-to-be greatest swordsman, it's only natural that we'd want to know just how strong Sanji has become. And with his newly awakened powers threatening to turn our somewhat beloved blonde into the menace he was made to be, there hasn't ever been a better time to talk about it than now. So, in just 10 short minutes, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, from the power to the lore, about why Sanji is almost a monster. And just like I do with all of these videos, I'd like to start with the narrative and lore surrounding Sanji's strange combat abilities. As if you haven't really watched One Piece, it probably does sound pretty odd for the cook on a pirate ship to be as strong as the professional sword combatant. And even if you do watch One Piece, you know Sanji's dream, unlike Zoro, has nothing to do with strength. So, what makes him such a menace and gives him his iconic Black Leg Force comeback energy? Surprisingly enough, the answer is really simple. And I would even say it's one of Oda's best examples of writing parallel characters, as the reason Sanji is strong is almost an exact one-to-one opposite of why Zoro is strong. While Zoro became powerful and grew his haki by fighting to protect his crew's dreams even over his own, Sanji became powerful, in turn, also growing his haki, by having an unshakable will towards what he believed was right and wrong. This is best reflected in Sanji's introduction arc, Baratie, where Zoro had his will crushed by realizing the sheer gap between himself and Mihawk, a gap he could not cross on his own. It wasn't until Zoro dedicated himself to being the Pirate King's sword that he truly had the conviction to never lose again. But by comparison, Sanji followed his sense of justice, feeding a pirate spy because in his eyes, no one should ever go hungry. But even when this blew up in his face, he did not waver in his conviction and would certainly have done it again. This is even better shown during the Water 7 arc, where Zoro does nothing but blatantly trust Luffy's decision to boot Usopp from the crew after the Merry incident, whereas Sanji kicks Luffy in the face for preparing to say something that would conflict with his own moral code. If that's all not enough to convince you, you could literally just say Zoro's dream is to beat a big bad and Sanji's is to find something, if that just hammers home their opposing sides of the same coin plotline to you. But just blatantly, where Zoro is the most loyal, dedicated right hand with the strength to support Luffy's choices, Sanji is the capable left hand with everything figured out to keep Luffy from making bad choices. And while you could continue to spew parallel after parallel from arc to arc, that really isn't the point of this video. Rather, it's all just to establish that Sanji's strength, his willpower, comes from a place of internal conviction towards his own ideals. And that's honestly the most significant thing about the Zoro parallel, as while Zoro inherited his dream from someone else, embodying his desire to protect other people's dreams, making him strong when fighting for others, Sanji developed his will from a rough childhood and a place of rejection from his own family, with the only people who were kind to him, his mother, sister, and Zeph, literally all shaping Sanji's commitment to those ideals of being a good man in one way or another. This all happened from a place of young Sanji's natural understanding and empathetic heart towards those people's struggles, making him truly strong when he's fighting for what he believes in. And of course also inspiring Sanji's immense proficiency for observation haki. And it's also what makes the dynamic of Sanji's new power-up so intriguing, as Sanji's entire life, from powerless child to an unwavering man, was challenged ever since the Whole Cake Island arc, but especially during the Wano arc. As even though the use of his raid suit began to awaken new powers in him that were nothing but useful towards his end goals during the raid, he was so actively upset by the fact that he was being turned into the literal monster of his nightmares that he told Zoro he would have to end his life if the time ever came where he lost his heart. Not because those powers weren't useful to him, but because it is so antithetical to the thing that makes Sanji truly strong, his will. And speaking of strength, if you sat through the whole lore section, I'm sure you're more than curious now about what any of that has to do with Sanji's powers or abilities. Here we find why I had to spend half the video talking about his dream and motivation, because Sanji's powers are 100% entirely linked to his willpower and dreams. Let me explain. In the case of Haki, the main power system in the world of One Piece, in all of its forms, Haki is the physical manifestation of someone's will into reality. This is why, as the most empathetic and unironically most self-aware Straw Hat, his observation is the most potent of them all, letting him avoid attacks from future Saint Katakuri without even being awakened to the ability himself, or being able to pull off the now highly memed Sanji disappears gag on Queen. By the time Sanji awakens his observations sometime in the future of the manga, he will undoubtedly be one of, if not the fastest character in the series, without ever even mentioning his mastery of the Six Powers technique Soru. And while you can't exactly sing the same praise about his armament yet, he makes up for it tenfold with his second power, the modified lineage factor. While this does veer slightly into manga spoilers, Vegapunk explains pretty simply on Egghead that devil fruits are the manifestations of people's dreams and desires, but also that when one is consumed, it alters part of the user's DNA, called a lineage factor. And that lineage factor can then be replicated to create devil fruits. Now, if it's finally starting to click, Judge modified all 5 of his children's lineage trait to make them into human weapons, via the same exact method that Vegapunk uses to make synthetic fruits. And I don't think any part of that is a coincidence. When Sanji's raid suit, something that directly interacts with his genes, gave him the exact devil fruit power of his dreams. So if you need me to spell it out, Sanji's basically a walking human devil fruit. One with an insanely durable exoskeleton, regeneration, and superhuman stat multiplier on top of his already superhuman stats, without any of the weaknesses attributed to normal devil fruit users. These germ powers, powers of dreams, are even attributed by Queen to be part of his machine-enhanced genetics, and although Sanji rebutes, claiming that his quote-unquote passion is what fuels his flames of Diable Jambe, of course, he still claims to be human afterwards, despite what we soon learn to the contrary. However, when combining the internal dedication to his own sense of morality with a newly amped physical body, he creates Infrit Jambe, a jump in power so insane that it deserves its own transition straight to the power scaling section, as this form basically gives him nothing but hotter fire, more raw firepower, and raw fossil-making ability. With just his regular Germa-enhanced skin, Sanji was already shown to be able to break Queen's sword with his face, as Queen even remarks in a panic, asking if Sanji used some sort of armament hockey, even knowing this is the same Queen who puts characters like Island to country-level Dofi and Ace to shame. Sanji then goes on to, like I said before, blitz Queen so hard that he thinks Sanji is just invisible again, when in reality his hockey physically couldn't keep up with Sanji's speed, despite all observation users being implied to have reactions scaling to near light speed at minimum. And of course, most amazingly, he basically one-shot low diffs this second commander, who I think I need to remind you is both a cyborg and a dinosaur, 2 of the tankiest things a person can even be in the world of One Piece, and Sanji still smacked him in all of a few seconds, with the increased heat of his flames. We should easily put him on large country to continental scales of power, with him really only being below top tiers like the Yonko, Admirals, and Advanced Conquerors hockey users like Zoro, in terms of AP. As for speed though, I'm more than content saying that he has Emperor level speed, to match Zoro's Emperor level strength. It is highly consistent with their lore and narrative to be different but almost equal in some way. Zoro's strength is in his armament, and Sanji's is in his raw observation. Hopefully I've hammered that point home enough for people not to argue about it. But this would put Sanji at an easy FTL speed tier and basically make him as fast as any advanced Future Sight user without even having the ability himself yet. And of course, referring back to the thumbnail of this video, it only really makes sense as a person who was literally created for nothing else but raw evil and destruction. He would know now better than anyone that as he's grown closer and closer to that original place Judge intended for him, he really is nearing that heartless title of a monster. But as his last true hurdle in the series, to finally determine for himself that blood isn't everything, Sanji will undoubtedly prove to the world that his true place is as Blackleg Sanji of the Straw Hat Pirates, leaving Vinsmoke Sanji and Jerma behind him. And that's why, no matter how far he falls, even if he's almost a monster, deep down, Sanji will always be human. Those are all just my thoughts though, about one of my favorite characters in the series. So let me know how I did. Is it any better than the Zoro video, or is it still falling short of that awesome Gear 5 video we made? Regardless, drop a like and subscription if you enjoyed it, or if you just want to see another character in this series, and be sure to click one of the videos in the card before you go. And that's all for today. Thanks.